Morning, everyone, and welcome back to James Talk Sport. 4th of April 2021 was the beginning of Holy Week with the Tour of Flanders, and finally, Holy Week is going to be finishing this weekend with Paris-Roubaix, the first edition of the women's race, and a lot of the men's race. So, let's delve in and discuss the favourites, the route, and the weather for the women's and men's Paris-Roubaix. So, the first edition of the women's Paris-Roubaix is finally here. It's been a long time coming, but finally, ASO seems to be getting the idea behind women's racing with this and the Tour de France to come next year as well. So, they've started off with 116.4 kilometres, a loop around the starting town of Denain, and then they finish in the Roubaix velodrome. In between there, they've got 18 sectors of cobbles, the same route from Paris-Roubaix for the final 70-ish kilometres of the men's race. I think the decisive sectors will be the first one, as it always is, sets that established order of the race, and if you get through that, you can go on and try and keep going. So the first sector is the longest sector. It's over 3 kilometers. Orange, or however, I don't know how to say it in French. Um, After that, you've got the run to Orchies, Bercy, and then the next important one will be Maison-Pavel, a lovely 5-star sector. Um, go onto the cobbles, you go onto some tarmac in a little hamlet, and then back out onto an uphill part of the cobbles before heading back onto the main road. It's a hellish sector. I've never ridden it. I was hoping to ride it last year and this year, but there we go. Soon I will. Um, After that, you've got a few like Thibaut Underland, the two at Sessignon and Bourgelès. But the next two sectors, I sort of put them as a double act because they're pretty close together, is the 4-star Campin and Favel and the 5-star Carrefour de l'Arbre. Campin and Favel is easy. You turn left off the main road, and you're straight onto the cobbles. So straight, a turn right, and then to the end of the sector. It's normally where a lot of camper vans are as well, so you get a lot of good atmosphere, and they are tough. It is a tough sector. But the Carrefour, a few, maybe half a kilometre late, maybe a bit more later, is the final 5-star sector of the race. It's the start of it is so difficult because it's twisty and turny in between houses and farms on the left and right. But then it opens out, and if it's windy, you go up to that 90-degree left-hander, and it can be brutal. After that, it's all but a straight run to the restaurant, and then you turn onto Gruson and head towards the finish in Roubaix. So there's the route, the rough route. Let's take a look at the weather forecast before I take a look at the favourite. As of 10:33 on Thursday before Roubaix, this is the weather forecast for the Saturday for the women's race. It's going to be dry until 3 o'clock, and after that it's going to be raining from 3 onwards. This is according to the BBC, with a south-south-easterly wind, but not overly strong. Favourites for the women's race. It's quite difficult to choose because yes, they've done Deronda, but Deronda is such a different race to Roubaix. So I've come up with those that will normally do pretty well in there. So for SD Works, you got 3 riders that I think they'll choose to try and win the race. Chantal Vandenbroek Black, Julian Dora, and Christine Majerez. Christine Majerez will be a very, very good bet if it's wet earlier in the race because she's a cyclocross rider. Very good bet. Otherwise, I think it'd be Yoli and Dora in the sprint and Chantal attacking. For Canyon, you've got the Barnes sisters. Um, they will want a hard race, and probably they'll want to attack early as well. Marta Cavalli showed that she's in good form at the World, so I think she could be up there. Anna Henderson and Mariana Voss will be the protected riders. Obviously, Voss will be the leader for Jumbo Visma. Lotte Kopecky for live racing. Ale will have Marta Bastianelli, the former Flanders winner. Trek will be probably backing Ellen van Dijk, but they've also got Audrey Cordon-Rago and Lizzie Deignan as well. Movistar, again, they will probably back the experience of Van Vleuten, but they've got Emma Norsgaard, and Valcar have the current and the week-old world champion in Elisa Balsamo. I'll do predictions in a minute for the women's race, but first let's take a look at the men's Paris-Roubaix. Classic route, starting in Compiègne, ending in the Velodrome, 257 kilometres. 31 sectors of cobbles, starting in Trassouville, and the final sector is that Henri section just before you get into the Velodrome. Again, you've got to say Trassouville is going to be a decisive sector. The first sector, it sets the tone for the race. If you come down there, doesn't bode well. But the first big sector will be the Forest of Orenburg, the Torre de Orenburg. 2.4 kilometers downhill, 65, 70k an hour into it. It's brutal. It's you can see the fight for positioning going into it from main road to such a narrow. Then after the down, you've just got to get through the rest of the sector. If it's dry, it's hard in any way, but if it's wet, it's, you saw in 2002 or 2001, that is going to be a manic sector. After that, again, like the women's, you've got Meuse-en-Pavel, Campin-en-Pavel, and Carrefour de l'Arbre as the most decisive sectors. So let's take a look at the weather forecast for the 3rd of October. Very different to Saturday, whereas Saturday it's going to rain after 3, according to the BBC. The weather forecast for the men's race is wet until about 4 o'clock, which is going to make it very entertaining. Very sketchy, but very entertaining nonetheless. The wind is going to be a south-southwesterly wind, so both days you're going to have a bit of crosswind, but it's not very strong at the moment. A lot of favourites for this race because it's just such a lottery. Bora have Sagan and Pollitt. They both showed they were in decent form at the Worlds. Pollitt, on a course that didn't suit him, was very aggressive, so I think he'll go very well on Sunday. Quick Step, I think you have 4 riders as they normally do. Casper Asgreen, the Tour of Flanders winner. Yves Lampart, podiumed Roubaix before. And then the 2 in form, I would say, out of the 4 would be Florian Sénéchal and Zdeněk Štýbar. Both did very well at the Worlds, so I expect them to be there or thereabouts at the finish as well. Jumbo and Alpecin are all behind Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel, respectively. Both of them will find, I think we'll find it tough for different reasons. Wout van Aert, probably the biggest disappointment of his career, not winning the rainbow jersey last week. And Mathieu, he has his back issues that were fine at the Worlds, but it was his fitness over the 270k. So we don't know where his condition will be for the distance of Roubaix this year. Trek, Pedersen and Stuyven seem to be in decent form. Stuyven will probably be their best bet. Mohoric, yes, they've got Colbrelli, but I don't think the flat route suits him, whereas Mohoric for Bahrain, I think he could go well. As you desire, have the 2 Belgians. Greg Van Avermaet and Oliver Naesen. Stefan Kung and Arnold Demar for FDJ. UAE will back Christoph and he will hope for a brutally hard race. Again, looked okay at the Worlds. Ineos will be backing Dylan van Baarle and probably have Kwiato as a sidekick. And Total will have Anthony Turgis, who I think will go very well indeed. So, there's the routes and the forecasts and the favourites for both races. I'll join you on the other side for my predictions for the men's and the women's Paris-Roubaix. And the women's race is where I'll start. It's hard to predict, but I think I'll go for an SD Works rider to win the race. I think I will probably go for Chantal van den Black. If it's wet, I think someone like Majerez or with a cyclocross background. But I think Chantal has that raw power to be able to get away on the sectors and stay away. Voss will win a sprint for second, with, why not, Emma Norsgaard in third place. The men's race, I think I'm going to back Niels Pollitt. I don't think it's going to be a big favourite like Van der Poel and Van Aert, because, as I mentioned, they've got their struggles. So I think it is going to be someone that looked good at the World Championships but wasn't super good. And I'm going to go Niels Pollitt to take the win, Stibar to get on the podium, and I think Dylan van Baarle will get on the podium as well. In second for Stibar, third for van Baarle. If it's wet, however, that is when Van der Poel and Van Aert will come into play because they are just kings of cross. So thank you for watching. Enjoy the racing this weekend. It's going to be wonderful. So, and I'll join you afterwards for a review of the men's and women's races.